Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the fridge. On the menu tonight, World of Tanks. Tonight's gameplay is brought to us by Lorraine 40t. He is driving the subject of tonight's video, the Lorraine 40t. The Lorraine is a French Tier 8 medium autoloader. Those of us that have played for a while will remember that this tank was in the French tech tree at Tier 9, leading directly to the batch at 25 ton. Given that this tank has been moved to Tier 8, Wargaming needed to rebalance it, and what they did was take the Nerf bat to the gun. Let's take a closer look at the armor. Gun, 100mm SA-47A. This is a 100mm cannon that holds 4 rounds in its magazine. It requires 36 seconds to load those 4 rounds, and it can fire them at a rate of 2.5 seconds per shot. This means you can dump the mag with only 7.5 seconds between first shot fired and last shot fired. The aim time of 2.7 seconds means that you need to be thoughtful when dumping a clip, because you'll not be fully aimed by the time you're ready to fire again. So if you just bang 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 bang, each follow-up shot is less accurate than the first one. Speaking on accuracy, this gun shoots reasonably straight despite having a 0.36 shot dispersion. This dispersion is better than most of the Russians, but worse than pretty much everything else at the tier. Penetration is 232mm, which is best in class and better than even some of the heavy tanks, with the VK101 comes to mind. Damage per shot is 300 hit points, which is average for its tier. The DPM is the worst. Literally everything else you can buy from the tech tree, that's regular tech tree and premium tanks, has better DPM. This is not a problem though, because sitting still and pumping out the damage is not at all what this tank is about. Burst damage is what autoloaders are about, and the Lorraine 40t holds 1200 damage in its clip. The turret spins around at a decent 37.55 degrees per second, which is not fast, but it's also not the slowest. The oscillating turret limits gun depression and elevation to 8 degrees down and 15 degrees up, which again is decent but not class leading. When it comes to survivability, the armor values are so low I'm not going to bother going through them, but I will say that the thickest piece of armor on this tank is 45mm on the front of the turret, but its shape can give you the odd bounce from weak enemy guns, but quite obviously this is not something you can rely on. Oh, and avoid anything that shoots HE rounds, because the armor isn't thick enough to help, and with only 1300 hit points you are at risk of getting one shot by those big HE derp guns. When it comes to mobility, that is something that this tank is rather good at. 850 horsepower is good, and with a weight of 40 ton, this gives a very respectable 21.25 horsepower per ton, which is basically best in class, only outpowered by the AMX CDC. A top speed of 60 km an hour forwards and 23 km an hour in reverse is best in class, and the saving grace of this tank. The hull will turn at 35.46 degrees per second, which is the worst in tier, but with such a high reverse speed, this really isn't the handicap it seems to be. Concealment is good without being great. It comes in with values that put it somewhere between the super perishing and the FV4202. Spotting is poor. With a view range of only 380 meters, it puts it behind a lot of tanks, and it's about as blind as the Russian mediums. As for my personal feelings and thoughts on this tank, I loved this tank when it was at tier 9, and that gun had 6 shots and better handling stats, and that gun, it was just a dream. I love that tank so much I bought this tank. And that's kind of when my heart broke. These tanks aren't the same tank. The gun on this is nothing like what it used to be on the Tier 9. However, this tank is actually really good fun to drive. And just treat it as a different tank. Don't compare it to what it used to be. The mobility on the big box is great, and it lets you get to where you need to be, and it lets you run away from the places where you shouldn't be. She doesn't like explosions, so keep her away from the artillery and the big dirt guns and you should survive a bit longer. Being an autoloader, and a very mobile autoloader, there is one clear playstyle. Find tanks that are isolated and low on hit points, and just remove them. To be in a good position to do this near the end of the game, you need to hold on to your hit points early in the game. So this means you need to hold back at the start, support the front lines from the rear. That doesn't mean go and find a bush on the back line and wait until half the team's dead before you decide to do anything. The gun is pretty decent, but with such low DPM, you need to keep the gun working, which actually is not that hard, given that she shoots fairly well straight and you've got really good penetration. Working in a platoon or with a reliable teammate, this tank is great at cleaning up the battlefield. You can dispatch a couple of one-shot or two-shot tanks quite rapidly, or you can take someone from 1,000 hit points to dead. Keep in mind you are an autoloader, and there are many players out there that will shrink back into cover the moment you pop a round or two into them. They don't want to face an autoloader. Simply being on a flank, popping 1 or 2 rounds into people that start to get brave can be enough to make them pull back. And if it isn't enough to make them pull back, you've got 1200 damage in your clip. People get a lot less brave when that much health just suddenly falls off them. Top tier or bottom tier, you play this tank the same way. Everything can pen you, no matter what tier. Arty is always dangerous, no matter what tier. The only thing that really changes is the number of hits you can take before you finally go down. If you enjoy the autoloader playstyle, this tank really is worth looking at. It takes your batchat crew, so you can train those guys up really well. Thank you for joining me in the fridge. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. A reminder that I will be giving away a premium tank from the gift shop when I reach 100 subscribers, so please share my content with your friends. See you again soon.